Have you ever felt something was off in your relationship, but you couldn't explain why? Your partner still shows up, they smile, they talk to you. Yet deep down, you know the connection isn't the same. Here's the truth. Love doesn't just disappear overnight. It fades silently, one small sign at a time. And most people miss these signs until it's too late. In this video, we're uncovering 10 subtle but powerful signs your partner may have fallen out of love, even if everything looks fine on the surface. Don't skip number 1. It's the most revealing and most important sign of all. Let's get into it. Number 10. They stop sharing their day with you. Think back to when you first fell in love. The excitement of sharing even the most mundane parts of your day felt like second nature. You'd eagerly tell each other everything. What you had for lunch, that hilarious conversation with your coworker, or the frustration of waiting in a long grocery line. Nothing was too small or insignificant because every detail felt like a thread that wove you closer together. Sharing built intimacy, connection, and trust. But now, that eagerness seems to have vanished. You ask, "How was your day?" And instead of hearing a colorful story, you're met with a half-hearted, "It was fine." Maybe you've even stopped asking because you know what's coming. A shrug, a distracted, "Nothing really happened," or worse, silence. Let's imagine a familiar scenario. You used to have long, meaningful chats every evening after work. You'd sit on the couch, sip tea, or take a walk, recounting the day's ups and downs. Those moments didn't just fill time. They created a bond, a safe space where you both felt heard and valued. But now, those evening conversations are gone. In their place, a phone screen that absorbs their attention, a TV show you're watching together but not really watching together, or a quick, dismissive, "I don't want to talk about it." You notice that the silence between you has started to feel heavier. And it's not just about their day. They don't ask about yours either. Your victories, challenges, or silly moments that used to matter so much to both of you. They're no longer part of the conversation. It might seem small at first. Maybe they're just tired, or work's been stressful lately. And while life's busyness can temporarily cause someone to pull back, there's a deeper difference here. When someone stops sharing their day consistently, it's not just because they're overwhelmed. It's often a sign they're emotionally disengaged. You see, love thrives on connection. Sharing your day isn't just about relaying information. It's about letting your partner in. It's saying, "I want you to know me. I want you to be a part of my world." When that stops happening, the bridge that keeps you connected starts to break down. Left unchecked, this quiet shift can slowly erode the foundation of your relationship. Because a lack of sharing creates distance, and distance makes it easier to feel like two strangers living side by side instead of partners in love. If you've noticed this happening, take a moment to reflect. Are the lines of communication still open? Is there space to ask, "Hey, I miss those talks we used to have. How are you really feeling?" Rebuilding that connection starts with recognizing the silence, before it turns into a chasm you can't cross. Love is nourished by openness, trust, and the little details of everyday life. Without them, relationships don't just suffer. They crumble. Number 9. Affection feels forced or absent. Affection is one of the most powerful ways we express love. Not through words but through touch, gestures, and the small quiet moments that say, "I'm here, I care about you." It's not always about grand displays like flowers or extravagant dates. More often, it's in the subtleties. The lingering hand on your shoulder as they pass, the gentle kiss on the forehead before bed, or the way they instinctively pull you closer when you're sitting on the couch. These are the moments that make you feel seen, cherished, and safe. But when affection fades or starts to feel forced, the change is impossible to ignore. It's subtle at first, a missed kiss goodbye, a hug that feels more like an obligation than a comfort. You try to lean in, and suddenly their body feels stiff, uninviting. You say, "I love you," and their response feels rehearsed, as if they're saying it out of duty rather than genuine emotion. It's "love you too," delivered with a tone that lacks warmth or enthusiasm. Picture this. You reach for their hand during a walk, something you used to do naturally, and they pull away just a little too soon. Or maybe they stop reaching for your hand altogether. The cuddles that used to come effortlessly, where you'd melt into each other like two puzzle pieces, are now rare. And when they do happen, you can feel it's different. Their arms don't wrap around you as tightly. Their head doesn't rest against yours the way it used to. You might tell yourself it's not a big deal. Maybe they're just not in the mood today, you think. But days turn into weeks, and suddenly, that physical distance feels like a wall you don't know how to climb over. True affection is effortless. It's a natural expression of love. It's not just about the physical act itself. It's about what that act communicates. A lingering kiss says, "I choose you." A spontaneous hug whispers, "I'm here for you." An affectionate glance across the room reminds you, "You're still the most important person to me." When these moments stop or feel mechanical, it's more than just a lack of physical closeness. It's a symptom of emotional distance, a sign that the bond between you is weakening. Love isn't something you can fake forever. If affection becomes an afterthought or feels like a chore, it means the emotional connection fueling it has started to fade. This shift can be especially painful because affection is often where words fail. When we don't know what to say, a comforting hand or a loving embrace says it all. So when that warmth disappears, you're left wondering, are they here with me, or just physically present? If you're feeling this distance, it's worth reflecting. Has something changed in the relationship? Are there unspoken resentments, stressors, or emotional barriers building up? Love requires tending to, like a flame, it needs air and fuel to keep burning. Ignoring the absence of affection can allow that flame to die out quietly over time. The good news? Physical closeness can often be a bridge to emotional connection. Sometimes, starting small, offering a hug, brushing their hand, or simply sitting close without expectation, can open a door that's been closed for too long. But it also requires honesty and vulnerability. Expressing how you feel, "I miss the way we used to hold each other," can remind both of you of what's been lost and what's worth rebuilding. Love isn't just a feeling. It's a practice. When affection is present, it builds intimacy. When it's absent, it creates emotional distance that, if left unchecked, can feel like an unspoken goodbye. Number 8. You feel like roommates, not partners. Living together and being together aren't the same thing. Relationships often begin with a sense of togetherness, sharing laughter, dreams, and the feeling that you're building a life together. But somewhere along the way, it's easy to slip into routines that make you feel less like soulmates and more like strangers living under the same roof. Here's how it happens. The conversations that used to flow effortlessly over dinner now feel hollow, filled with short responses or awkward silences. You still sit at the same table, but your eyes are glued to your phones or the TV screen. You share a meal, but not a moment. At night, you crawl into the same bed, but instead of warmth and closeness, there's an invisible wall between you. You lie back to back, scrolling through notifications or falling asleep without so much as a good night or a gentle touch. You're close in proximity but miles apart emotionally. It's not just the quiet moments that hurt. It's the structure of your lives that starts to feel transactional. The relationship becomes a list of to-dos: splitting bills, dividing chores, picking up groceries, running errands. It feels less like love and more like an agreement to keep the household running. The spark that made those little tasks meaningful, because you were doing them together, has dimmed. Let's imagine a scenario. You suggest something special, like a date night to reconnect. Dinner at that cozy spot you both loved, or a fun outing to break the routine. But instead of excitement, you're met with a lukewarm, "I don't know. I'm kind of tired." Or maybe some other time. Instead of making time for each other, they'd rather binge watch their favorite show alone or scroll endlessly on their phone. At first, you might tell yourself it's normal. Life gets busy. Work is stressful. But over time, you begin to realize it's not just comfort. It's disconnection. You're not sharing experiences, memories, or dreams anymore. You're merely coexisting. This shift is dangerous because love isn't sustained by shared space. It's sustained by shared selves. Being in love means offering pieces of who you are. Your thoughts, your worries, your goals, and your laughter. It means sitting together, truly present, and saying, "I want to know you. I want you to know me." When that stops happening, the relationship begins to feel empty. You stop asking how their day was because you don't expect a real answer. You stop sharing your thoughts because you don't feel heard. And slowly, the person who used to be your partner begins to feel like a stranger walking in and out of the same spaces you occupy. So, what can you do if this sounds familiar? It starts with recognition. Are you both on autopilot, caught in routines that leave little room for connection? Have you stopped prioritizing each other? Rebuilding that bond doesn't always require grand gestures. Often, it's about returning to the little things that once made you feel close. Sit together without distractions and ask questions that go beyond the surface. How have you been feeling lately? Or what's something you've been excited about? Suggest activities that help you rediscover joy together. Cooking dinner as a team, going for a walk, or even simply laughing at an old inside joke. Most importantly, communicate openly. Say what you feel. I miss us. I miss feeling like we're a team. Vulnerability can feel scary, but it's also the first step in breaking down that emotional wall. Love is a choice you make every day. It's not just about sharing a roof or a bed. It's about sharing yourself. When you stop doing that, the relationship begins to wither. But when you nurture it, even the simplest moments, dinner at the table, a goodnight kiss, a shared laugh, can bring you back to the connection you once had. Because at its core, love isn't about being roommates. It's about being partners. Number 7, they're completely indifferent. Indifference is often louder than anger. When someone stops caring, they stop reacting. Unlike fights or arguments, where emotions are still alive, even if they're negative, indifference feels like a void, an emptiness that leaves you feeling invisible. It's as if you're standing right in front of them, but they can no longer see you. At first, it's easy to overlook. Maybe you share good news. You landed a promotion, finished a big project, or had a small victory that means the world to you. You expect excitement, a smile, or even a simple "I'm proud of you." But instead, you get a half-hearted "that's nice," delivered with all the enthusiasm of someone commenting on the weather. And then, nothing. They go back to scrolling on their phone, staring at the TV, or just moving on as if you hadn't spoken at all. It stings. But here's the real kicker. It's not just the good moments where their absence is felt. When life gets heavy, and you're upset, struggling, or in need of support, they don't seem concerned anymore. You open up about how overwhelmed you feel, and they respond with a dismissive, "You'll be fine." Or worse, they don't respond at all. It's as if your pain, once something they couldn't bear to see, now barely registers. They've stopped noticing when you're hurting or when you're in need of comfort. And it's not because they're busy or distracted. It's because they've checked out emotionally. Think back to the beginning of the relationship, when your emotions were intertwined. When you were happy, their joy mirrored yours. When you were upset, they'd do whatever it took to lift your spirits or simply sit beside you and hold you close. That's what love does. It cares. It invests energy. It reacts. Indifference, on the other hand, is the absence of all those things. It's the quiet unraveling of connection. Here's how it might look over time. You share stories from your day, things you used to bond over, and they barely listen. Maybe you get a quick nod, but their eyes are elsewhere. You try to engage them in conversation, and the answers are short, flat, or dismissive. "I don't know," or "it's whatever." You express your needs, concerns, or feelings, and they don't argue, agree, or even acknowledge them. It feels like shouting into the void. Celebrations and milestones, moments that should be filled with joy, feel hollow because they don't share in your excitement. Over time, indifference becomes suffocating. You feel unseen, unheard, and unimportant. You start to question yourself. Am I boring? Am I asking for too much? Did I do something wrong? But the truth is, when someone is emotionally checked out, it's rarely about you. It's about where they are, or aren't, within the relationship. Why does indifference hurt so much? Because it's the opposite of love. Love cares. Love notices. Love feels. When someone cares about you, your joy matters to them because they want to see you happy. Your struggles matter because they can't bear to see you hurting. Indifference strips away all of that. It's a signal that the emotional investment, the lifeblood of any relationship, has run dry. But here's what's important to remember. Indifference isn't always permanent. Sometimes, emotional distance happens because of unresolved conflict, unspoken resentment, or personal struggles. People shut down when they feel overwhelmed or unheard themselves. Recognizing indifference can be the first step to understanding what's truly going on. If you're noticing indifference in your relationship, it's worth asking, when did this shift begin? Is there something we're avoiding talking about? Are we still making time to connect emotionally, not just physically? Bringing this up can feel terrifying. After all, what if they confirm your worst fear, that they no longer care? But avoiding it won't fix it. A simple, honest statement like, "I feel like we're not as connected anymore, and I miss us," can open the door to a deeper conversation. Sometimes, indifference stems from unspoken pain or distance that neither of you knows how to bridge until someone speaks up. But if you find that the indifference is real and permanent, If they've truly stopped caring, then it's time to recognize a hard truth. You deserve a partner who sees you, listens to you, and celebrates you. Love isn't perfect, but it's active. It shows up. Because when someone truly loves you, they don't meet your excitement or pain with silence. They meet it with presence, care, and the simple but profound message: I'm here and you matter to me. Number 86. Conversations are short and shallow. Words are powerful. They have the ability to create, connect, and heal. Think back to those long, heartfelt conversations where you shared everything. Your dreams, fears, and the most random, silly thoughts. They didn't feel forced. They flowed effortlessly, like a river of emotions and understanding. But now, conversations feel different. Shallow, almost mechanical. They're reduced to simple, functional exchanges. What time's dinner? Did you pay that bill? Where's my sweater? Every question feels transactional, lacking the depth that once fueled your connection. When you attempt to dive deeper, asking how they truly feel, what's on their mind, you're met with one-word answers, blank stares, or abrupt topic changes. For instance, you might express concern by saying, "You seem distant lately. Is everything okay?" And they respond with a vague, "I don't know. I'm just tired." It's not just tiredness, it's withdrawal. They're pulling away, even if they can't, or won't, admit it yet. Conversations, once rich with meaning and emotional exchange, have become empty and superficial. Over time, this shift becomes painful because conversation is more than just words. It's how we bridge our thoughts and feelings. It's how we express love, comfort, and understanding. When that depth is lost, the relationship feels hollow. Short conversations often reveal deeper truths. They mask an emotional distance that words alone can't fix. The connection you once had seems to slip further away with every surface-level interaction. You start questioning yourself. Did I say something wrong? Am I asking too much? But the truth lies not in you, but in the space they've created between your words. Here's what often happens. You attempt to bring up personal thoughts or concerns, and they dodge the subject. You share something meaningful, only to receive a lukewarm or dismissive response. You express your emotions, only for them to brush it off with a quick fix, like, "We'll talk about it later." Only later never comes. It's not that they don't care. It's that they don't know how to engage in a deeper conversation anymore. And that's where the pain lies. Consider this. When conversations become shallow, they signal a deeper issue. One that often stems from emotional exhaustion or disconnection. People tend to pull back when they feel overwhelmed, unsure, or emotionally drained. Sometimes, it's easier to stay on the surface than to confront what's lurking beneath. However, addressing this isn't easy. You can't force meaningful conversations to happen if the other person isn't ready or willing. But you can create the space for them by offering vulnerability first. Start by sharing your thoughts and feelings honestly. When you express, "I miss our deep talks," or "I feel like we're losing touch emotionally," it may prompt them to reflect and engage more genuinely. Sometimes, all it takes is a simple question: "What's really going on?" to break through the barrier. It's important to remember that while conversations may feel one-sided now, this doesn't mean they're irreparable. Relationships require effort, and meaningful dialogue is a two-way street. If they care, they'll find ways to reconnect. And if they don't, then you have to ask yourself, do I deserve a relationship where communication feels hollow? Love thrives on connection, not just proximity. It thrives on conversations where both hearts feel heard. When those conversations become empty, it's a sign that it's time to reassess. Whether it leads to deeper understanding or a difficult goodbye, the journey toward emotional intimacy begins with words, honest, heartfelt, and unafraid. Number 5. They avoid future plans. Love is forward-thinking. It's built on dreams, aspirations, and the excitement of what lies ahead. Whether it's planning a vacation, setting goals for the next year, or even small, spontaneous weekend getaways, love is about creating shared memories and envisioning a future together. But now things feel different. Your partner avoids conversations about what's next. Simple invitations to plan a future event are met with dismissiveness or vague responses like, "We'll figure it out later," or "Let's see how things go." You might suggest a trip, a career move, or even just a casual dinner date weeks in advance, and they seem indifferent or distracted. Perhaps they brush it off with, "I'm too busy," or give you a non-committal response that leaves you feeling uncertain. Avoiding future plans isn't just about logistics. It often signals a deeper issue, a lack of emotional investment in building a future with you. For instance, imagine suggesting a weekend getaway, and instead of enthusiasm, you get a lukewarm, maybe, or an excuse to avoid making concrete plans altogether. This isn't about practicality. It's about a deeper reluctance to engage with the idea of a future alongside you. When someone truly loves you, they see a future with you. They dream with you, and even if there are uncertainties or obstacles, they're willing to navigate them together. But when your partner avoids future conversations, it may indicate they are unsure about the relationship. Or worse, they've already started mentally detaching. Consider this. You mention long-term goals, and their response is short, distant, or non-committal. You try to make weekend or holiday plans, but they don't seem invested in the outcome. You talk about milestones, such as buying a home or starting a family, and they seem hesitant or uninterested. Avoidance of future plans creates emotional distance. It creates a cycle where both parties stop envisioning a life together, and instead, focus on just getting through the present. Love thrives on forward momentum, not stagnation. When someone avoids planning ahead, it reflects that they may not feel connected enough to the future where you both are included. This emotional withdrawal isn't always intentional. It can stem from fear, uncertainty, or unresolved feelings. Perhaps they're struggling with their own doubts, or maybe they're not fully ready to face the reality of the relationship's direction. Regardless of the reason, the impact is the same. You feel isolated in the future you once built together. Here's the danger. You start feeling like you're asking for too much when you simply want to talk about what's next. You worry that your dreams are one-sided. Your partner's disengagement feels like a silent acknowledgement that they're no longer invested in building a future with you. You begin doubting your place in their future entirely, wondering if they even see you in their long-term vision anymore. Avoidance can be subtle, sometimes passive-aggressive or rooted in emotional immaturity. Other times, it's a clear sign of them mentally stepping back from the relationship. Either way, it leaves you questioning where you stand and what your role is in their life moving forward. If your partner continuously dodges future plans or talks about life together, it's important to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, is this how I want to feel in a relationship? Am I ready to invest emotionally in a future that feels uncertain? Are we growing together or drifting apart? Sometimes, small steps can help reignite future conversations. Start by openly sharing what you envision for your future. Then listen carefully to their responses. Whether it sparks a deeper dialogue or confirms your suspicions, honesty is key. If they still avoid talking about a future together, despite your efforts, it may be time to reassess the relationship's path. Love should bring security, shared dreams, and the promise of growth, not uncertainty and isolation. When a partner can't see a future with you, it often means they've already begun letting go, even if they're too afraid to admit it. Ultimately, love thrives when both people are willing to move forward together, hand in hand. Without that, you're left alone in a future that was supposed to be shared. Number 4, they get annoyed by small things. Do you feel like you can't do anything right anymore? The things they once adored about you, the little quirks, your habits, now seem to push their buttons instead of making them smile. Imagine this scenario. You hum a familiar tune while cooking dinner, and instead of laughing or gently teasing you, they roll their eyes or sigh audibly. You tell a story you've shared countless times, and they snap. You already said that. These once endearing traits, those small, seemingly inconsequential moments, now feel like strikes against you. Love is understanding and forgiving. When someone loves you, they see your imperfections and still find beauty in them. They embrace your quirks, your idiosyncrasies, even the things that might annoy others. But when love begins to fade, patience wears thin, and those small irritations that were once endearing transform into frustrations that become harder to overlook. Small things like leaving the lights on, repeating a joke, or humming off-key suddenly feel like personal affronts, and they chip away at the bond you once shared. Here's where it becomes unsettling. You leave a cupboard door slightly ajar, and they sigh again. You ask for a simple favor, and they respond with annoyance. Why do you always need help? You attempt a light-hearted joke, and they roll their eyes, clearly unimpressed. These moments build up, slowly eroding the intimacy and connection. It's not just about the behavior. It's about how it makes you feel. Love thrives on acceptance, but as annoyance takes over, It replaces that warmth with a coldness that can feel suffocating. When love fades, small irritations don't feel so small anymore. They become symbols of a deeper discontent, a frustration that's no longer held at bay by affection or understanding. The person you once felt cherished by seems distant, as if they're only seeing the flaws, not the whole person. This shift can be disheartening, especially if you're left wondering, was I always like this? Or why am I no longer enough for them? The key difference is that in love, small flaws are embraced. In fading love, those same quirks become sources of irritation, making you feel misunderstood and unappreciated. Consider this. When your partner's eyes roll in response to something small, does it feel like a betrayal of who you are? When they snap or sigh, does it leave you questioning whether you're truly seen or valued? When they complain about your habits, do you feel like you're being shaped into something they can tolerate rather than love? These moments may seem trivial in isolation, but they accumulate, leaving a residue of dissatisfaction. And while you might try to adapt or apologize for every minor mistake, deep down, you know it's not about changing your behavior. It's about whether the love between you still exists. The unsettling truth is that when small things become a source of frustration, love isn't just on the decline. It's actively being replaced by indifference. In healthy relationships, compromises are made with kindness. In fading love, they're met with impatience. If you find yourself walking on eggshells to avoid these moments, it might be time to pause and reflect. Is this who I want to be in this relationship? Am I being loved for who I truly am, or for who they want me to be? When love becomes conditional, when small quirks turn into intolerable flaws, what's left is a hollow version of the relationship you once shared. And that's a heart-wrenching place to be. Number 3. You feel lonely, even when they're right there. Loneliness isn't just about being physically alone. It's about feeling unseen, unheard, and disconnected from the person you care about the most. For example, you're sitting right beside your partner, yet there's no conversation, no eye contact, no real engagement. They're present in body, but absent emotionally. You reach out for their hand, and they pull away, or worse, they don't respond at all. You start to feel invisible, as if you're merely occupying space, not truly part of their world. When love is alive, you feel valued, heard, and cherished. You're seen as the most important person in the room, someone who matters deeply. Every touch, every glance, every shared moment reinforces that connection. But when love fades, loneliness creeps in. It's not about physical separation. It's the emotional distance that creates a void where closeness once thrived. You feel as if you're just there. Not a partner, but an afterthought. Here's how it plays out. You try to initiate a conversation, but they seem preoccupied with their own thoughts or devices, leaving you talking to a wall of disinterest. You share something important, and instead of listening, they respond with distraction, a generic reply, or even worse, no response at all. Simple gestures of affection, like holding hands or snuggling on the couch, become avoided or ignored, leaving you feeling cold and disconnected. The painful truth is that when love begins to fade, loneliness doesn't come from physical separation. It stems from emotional disconnection. You begin questioning whether you truly matter in their life. You wonder if they still see you as the person they once loved, or if they've slowly distanced themselves from who you are. When someone loves you, they look at you, not through you. They hear your words, understand your emotions, and respond with warmth and empathy. When that stops, it leaves a gaping hole where intimacy used to reside. It's not just about being alone. It's about feeling invisible. You start questioning your place in their life. Why do they pull away when I try to connect? Why does it feel like my thoughts and feelings don't matter anymore? Am I losing the person who once made me feel special? These moments of loneliness are deeply isolating. They make you feel like you're navigating a relationship alone, even when your partner is physically present. Over time, the weight of this emotional isolation becomes unbearable, and you begin to wonder if love was ever truly there, or if it has been replaced by a hollow companionship that lacks substance. True love flourishes when both people feel seen, heard, and understood. Without that, loneliness will continue to take root, slowly eroding the bond that once connected two hearts. Number 2. They stop saying "I love you," or it feels empty. Saying "I love you" is more than just a string of words. It's a heartfelt expression of how someone feels about you, a reflection of the connection, trust, and emotional bond you share. When your partner stops saying it, or if they say it without genuine warmth, it's a clear sign that their feelings may be shifting. For example, they used to express love spontaneously, often surprising you with sweet, unexpected declarations of affection. Now you say "Oh, I love you" first, and their response feels mechanical, like they're saying it because they feel they should, rather than because they truly mean it. Perhaps they don't say it at all anymore, leaving you wondering if the love you once felt is still there, or if it has quietly faded into something colder, something distant. Love is more than words. It's a combination of the way they treat you, listen to you, and show you affection through both actions and communication. When they stop saying "I love you" with sincerity, it can feel like a silent rejection, a withdrawal from the emotional intimacy you once shared. Here's the stark reality. They might still say it, but it lacks warmth. It feels hollow, a mere echo of what used to be. You hear "I love you," but you don't feel it in their touch, their gaze, or their actions. Over time, silence becomes the loudest message. When love fades, words lose their power. Love speaks through both words and actions. Silence speaks louder than anything else. When someone truly loves you, they don't just tell you. They show you, every single day. When those "I love yous" stop holding meaning, when they become routine or mechanical, it creates a void that can't be ignored. You begin questioning their intentions, their attachment, and whether the love you once had has been replaced with something cold, something unfulfilling. You may try to hold on to those words, but without the emotional warmth behind them, they lose their significance. And the silence that follows? It becomes deafening, leaving you questioning your worth, your place in their heart, and your future together. In healthy relationships, saying "I love you" is a reminder of the bond that ties two souls together. When that bond starts to weaken, those words lose their power, and without action to fill the void, love feels lost in the spaces between. Number 1. You don't feel valued anymore. The most heartbreaking sign of all is this. You no longer feel important, appreciated, or truly loved. In a healthy relationship, love makes you feel like you matter. Like your thoughts, your presence, and your emotions are valued and cherished. But when love begins to fade, the signs become increasingly evident. They stop noticing when you're hurting. They forget to express gratitude for the small things you do. Whether it's making them a meal, organizing a surprise, or simply offering support in tough times. They no longer ask how your day was, or seem genuinely interested in the details of your life. Over time, these small acts of neglect build up, leaving you questioning your worth. You start to wonder, am I enough? Do they still see me as the person they once cared for deeply? Here's the truth. You are enough. Your value is not dependent on how someone else treats you. However, if someone makes you feel invisible or undervalued, it's not a reflection of your worth. It's a sign they're no longer fully showing up for the love you deserve. In a loving partnership, there's mutual respect, a balance of giving and receiving. When that balance tips, and they stop making an effort to recognize your importance, it creates an emotional gap that becomes harder to bridge. Consider this. When you share your thoughts, they brush them off as insignificant. When you do something thoughtful, they don't acknowledge it. Or worse, they take it for granted. You feel like an afterthought, rather than a priority in their life. Love thrives on connection and validation. When that connection starts to fray, and the validation disappears, it leaves you feeling lost, wondering if you'll ever feel truly seen again. In moments like these, it's important to remember that your worth is not dictated by someone's ability, or inability, to make you feel valued. You deserve to be loved deeply, completely, and authentically. When someone stops showing you that, it's not a reflection of your shortcomings, it's a reflection of where their heart lies. And if they're no longer able to see the light in you, it might be time to reevaluate whether their love was ever truly aligned with the person you are. Recognizing these signs is painful, but awareness is powerful. You deserve a relationship where you're seen, loved, and valued every single day. If these signs resonate with you, don't ignore them. Facing the truth might be hard, but it's the first step toward healing and finding the love you truly deserve. If you found this video helpful, share it with someone who might need it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more content like this.